This is the nation station, WLW in Cincinnati, your clear channel service.
The president, as he left the scene, was stretched out on the turtleback of this car, and he was holding Jackie, or I guess Jackie was holding him. It took him about 5 minutes to get to Parkland Hospital, and I didn't learn that he was dead until I got back here to the station. The reaction, I think, among the crowds who are now standing around streets in downtown Dallas, tuned into their radios, they're just standing around. Nobody's really saying much, except it's just unbelievable. And why? And I guess we'll never know the answer to that.
I guess maybe we will, too. And if we don't know it, unfortunately, our, shall we use the word colleagues from Moscow are already saying why the President of the United States was shot before they have even the slightest idea. From Moscow, the Soviet news agency TASS reports that the President of the United States was shot in Dallas, Texas, and died later. And it adds, an attempt was made on his life by persons believed to be among extreme right-wing elements. As usual, the Moscow reporters go off half-cocked and they make everything fit their social philosophy. They may turn out to be right, but that will be merely an accident because, as we have heard from Pierce Alman, WFAA in Dallas, at the moment, nobody knows exactly how or why. Reaction is coming in from around the world continually. Reaction from the Pope. He has taken note of the death of the President of the United States with sadness. And from Cardinal Spellman of New York, and here in New York City, where President Kennedy frequently visits, we have Joseph Michaels. He's at City Hall in New York.
Morgan, I'm near Trinity Church. Trinity Church, the famous Trinity Church at the head of Wall Street. This was a huge blow to everyone. The stock exchange closed at 2:09, closed by the Board of Governors when the floor was in a chaotic condition. Perhaps you can hear the bells behind me now. Trinity Church's bells are ringing again. Our reaction is not from presidents or heads of church, but from his fellow citizens, among them first a young Negro.
Losing Kennedy is like losing a father, because he's been like a father to everyone in this nation. It hurts everyone in this nation. We're going to miss him very much. I don't know why they did it. Kennedy didn't do nothing to nobody. On the contrary, he tried to help everybody in this home. For everybody, he tried to help as much as he can. I don't know why and how they could do anything like this to him.
Sir, what will it do to business?
Well, I don't think it'll affect business at all, sir. I believe that we had a great president who was doing a lot for business, and I believe that he set a trend that Americans will recognize and follow, and I think, if anything, it will help us become more dedicated to helping our businesses and helping our nation.
Due to the causes that he believed in.
Well, I believe the causes that President Kennedy believed in are the causes that all Americans believe in. Whether or not someone said they were a Kennedy man prior to this, I'm sure that we all join today in grieving for him and in recognizing that he had at his heart the hearts of all Americans, and that he was striving to accomplish for this nation what we all would want to.
All over the city, wherever there's a radio turned on, as of course we have had to keep our radio turned on to keep abreast of what is happening. With me now...
White House Secretary Malcolm Kilduff said the president's body would be flown to Washington this afternoon, almost immediately. The Dallas Sheriff's Department says a rifle has been found in a staircase on the 5th floor of that warehouse building near the scene of the assassination. And now we have confirmation of exactly the kind of weapon. It was a 7.65 Mauser rifle. German-made Army rifle, had a telescopic sight with one shell left in the chamber. 3 spent shells were found nearby. As you've noted before, we've had reports that there were either 2 or 3 shots. The police credit 3 shots with being fired, and incidentally, the 3rd shot apparently struck Governor Connally of Texas because he was wounded in 2 places. One place is, of course, of no importance, but the wound in the back under the shoulder blade is the one for which Governor Connally of Texas is now being operated on. His condition is still serious, although his physicians feel that the vital points, his pulse, his reaction generally mean that he may well pull through. We have a bulletin from New York now. The League of New York Theaters announces that all Broadway theaters will be closed tonight. Willard Keith, spokesman for the League, says all League members' shows on the road also will be closed tonight in the beginning of the period of mourning for the death of the President of the United States. NBC News has learned that the military officers charged with arranging for state funerals are at the White House at this moment, discussing possible funeral plans. Mr. Kennedy is the first president to die in office under the new Defense Department setup. So protocol will have to be written as it is. That is, the idea of the military handling a funeral of the President of the United States is an entirely new one, and they will have to set precedents at this time. For those of you who may not know about it, one of the important facts of life in Washington is that the military is in charge of the District of Columbia in many ways. The Capitol building and so on is the only building there that's excluded from their direct charge, and they are indirectly in charge of that. So that it is entirely fitting, as was done a few years ago, that the Defense Department should handle affairs such as the one that we have regretfully and sadly before us, a funeral of another President of the United States, and this one in the terrible tradition of Lincoln and McKinley. The Army will have charge as usual. There are caissons and ceremonial horses at Fort Myer, Virginia, of course, along with units of troops ready for use in such capacities, so that Fort Myer will take charge of the funeral arrangements for President John Kennedy of the United States. And now more reaction from the Capitol. We switch now to NBC's Robert McCormick at the Capitol for reaction in the House of Representatives.
Actually, this is reaction from the Senate. One of the first members of Congress to get the bad news was one of President Kennedy's oldest friends, Senate Democratic leader Mansfield. He turned pale when he heard the news, and then he and Dirksen together left the chamber to call the White House. Here is what Senator Mansfield had to tell us later.
The passing of John Fitzgerald Kennedy is not only a tragedy for the nation which he so ably represented, but is, I think, also a mark upon the respectability and the responsibility of some of our citizens. This good, this decent, this kindly man, this harassed man who had so much on his shoulders and received from some people so little in the way of support in return, this man is now gone to his reward. And I will miss him as a personal friend. The nation will miss him as a great president, and the world will miss him as a great leader. One of the fondest memories I can recall is the cooperation and the support which the distinguished senator from Illinois, Mr. Dirksen, the minority leader of the Senate, gave to the President of the United States, a Democrat, time and time again when the interests of the nation were at stake. And I know how grateful he was to you for the many contributions you made, and I'm just as grateful, and the nation is too. Words are useless to express one's true feelings at a moment like this.
Mike, a person's perplexity is just too great in a tragic moment like this.
That last voice was Senate Republican leader Dirksen. Capitol officials have told us that they are making tentative arrangements for the body of the late President Kennedy to lie in state